Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. We are going to get started in just a minute, but before we do begin, love to know where everyone's joining us from. If you can put it in the chat box, that'll be awesome. And also just launching a quick poll, just so we know where you are in your investment journey. And while we're doing that, Ankita, where are you joining us from?
So right now I am in Bangalore in India, awesome. But I will be back in the Bay Area in 3 weeks.
That's awesome. Anyone else here from India? I am joining from New Jersey. Canada, Anisha's California, Delhi. There you go. Nice. Welcome everyone. Cool. So I guess we have a lot of people here to learn a lot about angel investment. A lot of people who have no experience, people have some experience. So Ankita, this is something, for you to kind of keep a note as you are going through everything that you have prepared for us today. And then we have another question that I would like to end poll here. And let's see. Also would love to know who you really are. Are you a student? Are you a working professional, an investor, entrepreneur, or something else? Cool. And while we're doing that, I will do a quick introduction of myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Naimisha Murthy. I am the founder and creator of Products by Women. I'm also a product manager by profession. Before we do begin, I do want to say thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning here in New York and evening in India and wherever else you're joining us from. Thank you again. I want to start off by saying thank you to Ankita and all our partners for really being a part of this. And some general housekeeping rules before we do get started. And Ankita had this amazing presentation prepared, this workshop and masterclass prepared for us. This event is being recorded. So don't worry about taking detailed notes. We will be sharing a recording via our YouTube channel and email after the session. Please do feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and we will be taking some of the questions towards the end of the session. I will be dropping a networking sheet through the session so you guys can connect with each other and some Slack information. You can also take a look at all our other upcoming events on productsbywomen.com. We also, in honor of Women's History Month, we've launched a Products by Women marketplace. So take a look at that. We have announced a bunch of women-owned businesses there. So if you'd like to get listed, reach out to us at info@productsbywomen.com. And I won't take any more time, and I can share all the other information in the chat box. But I'd like to introduce Ankita, who's also a really dear friend, and she is on a mission to diversify the cap table and really make angel investing, venture capital more diverse. And I don't want to be introducing you because you have so much to share. Ankita, it'll be great if you can just start off with introducing yourself and take it from here. Over to you.
Thanks, Naimisha. Thanks for having this, platform for people like me to come and share my journey and also be, able to connect with such amazing people globally, right? I'm very excited about, being able to share my kind of personal and professional journey in the space of angel investing. But just to give, everyone a quick intro. So I'll kind of, start and, I made a slide about myself, but, I'm currently the managing partner and founder at two funds, Stronger Ventures and Saha Fund. I've been in the space of private equity, venture capital, and tech ventures for the past 14 years. I'm someone who has lived and worked across US, UK, India, Singapore. I'm an engineer who then kind of moved into the world of finance. I'm always very fascinated by the intersection of, mathematics, economics, and what's happening around you, and technology innovation, right? So I basically, started my career 14 years ago in private equity, where I used to work for a $2 billion emerging markets focused fund, which was, Oreos Capital. It was part of the UK government's fund of funds, CDC group. So I used to live in London at that time. And I had the unique experience while being part of Oreos to doing both investor relations and global portfolio management, right? And all the funds that they were investing in were in the emerging markets in Asia, Africa, Latin America, etc. But all of their investors and the institutional and investors and banks, etc., were UK and European, DFIs, etc. So got to work with both sides of the coin, and very thoroughly enjoyed seeing two of their funds exit out. I saw three of their we raised actively for three of the funds. And of course, working with so many investors, right, for the same. Loved the impact and scale that capital can achieve. And I said, okay, fine, this is very interesting. I had spent 4 or 5 years there. And I said, let me discover the world of venture capital, right? And so at that time, I also kind of moved to Singapore/India. And I said, I'd be very interested to see what is emerging and what's happening. And, of course, venture was very interesting. It was an opportunity to kind of work with very young and innovative teams and founders, and really being in the middle of, tech innovation and the startup ecosystem. So around 2012, then I kind of moved to Singapore, India, and I said, okay, let me now discover venture capital. So of course, what I did is I joined a few angel networks. In today's world, of course, there are so many angel networks, but at that time there were, very few curated angel networks, which had some of the top kind of minds in terms of CEOs and entrepreneurs who were investing, but also some of the best founders from, the top kind of engineering, business, science schools coming and presenting, right? So I think it was a great opportunity to meet some of the best minds in the room. So at that time, what I did is I co-founded a small tech fund to invest in B2B SaaS, mobile commerce, cloud in Singapore, Philippines, India, US. And I also co-founded an accelerator program called Wavemaker Labs, which did really well. And, we were one of the first few kind of labs to be approved by the Singapore government, which basically meant that they invested in us and kind of co-invested along with us. And I made a bunch of investments at that time in AI, technology, e-commerce, et cetera, right? So I'm one of the first investors in a company called Uni4, which is in the conversational AI space. They recently raised a huge round, and now they're valued at $2.5 billion. I'm one of the first investors in something called Licious, which is one of Asia's biggest direct to online meat brands. And through the incubator, we invested in a company called Luxola, which became Asia's biggest online cosmetic store. And we sold it to Sephora. And that was founded by a second-time woman entrepreneur called Alexis, right? And that's when it kind of all came to me, and it kind of hit me, and I said, why aren't there more women entrepreneurs? And why aren't there more women investors? Because I saw this huge gap in supply and demand. And basically I realized that there weren't enough women who were taking decisions to invest in women-led and women-focused deals. And thereby I saw so many women founders not being invested in. So I said, I want to address this gap. And so around 2014-15, I launched a Saha Fund, which was actually one of the first global gender lens venture capital funds to invest in early stage women in tech. It was an India, US focused fund. And I raised $10 million to invest in early stage seed women-led, women-focused companies. And my kind of thesis and my mission was that I wanted to create a platform and access to capital and networks for women and women-focused kind of companies, right? And at the same time, kind of really bring the perspective of women leadership and entrepreneurship to the table. Because historically, I think women have lacked access to networks, access to capital. And so many times, I was part of those networks or demo days or angel meets. I would see women coming and presenting, very women-focused solutions to a room full of 15 men who are not necessarily always the user and consumer, and therefore they don't fund it, right? So that's what I did. And I raised the fund, I made 12 investments through that particular fund, and across B2B, e-commerce, edtech, wellness. That fund is now fully invested. We've had 3 exits from that. And we've had 5 up rounds from that particular fund. As of last year, I kind of launched Stronger Ventures, which is now my kind of next woman-focused fund, which is a $100 million fund to invest in women-led, women-focused companies, India and US. And we're also gone one step behind where we're looking at pre-seed companies to early stage, right? And we have certain sectors that we really like and love to talk about. For example, fintech, future of work, health, consumer, and Web 3.0, because my thesis is that if women can take care of their finance, health, have access to job opportunities, upskill, elder care, childcare, make consumer choices, and create in Web 3.0, they can be very independent, successful, and engaged in the workforce, right? So that's what we're doing at Stronger. I've, of course, always been very passionate about funding female founders, but I'm very passionate about creating more angel investors, creating more investors, women investors, but also diversity-focused investors, and really diversifying the cap table. But of course, it just so happens that I've been in the space of VC and PE, so I've been, always investing, but I've always personally invested as an angel as well, right? And now with my journey of investing, as an angel and as a fund manager for the past 14 years, I've really enjoyed kind of sharing that experience. That's what I kind of want to bring today. So I'm going to kickstart, our kind of session today. And of course, over the past few years, I've had the chance to invest in over 60 startups, and of course, mentor so many more, over 1,000 companies, right? But I want to kind of just, today, it to be like a primer, it to be a kind of introduction into, the different parts of angel investing as to why do you invest? What are the motivations to invest? What do you look when are you investing? What is portfolio construction, negotiation? What are the legal docs? And venture development, and what is this whole angel investing world about? So I want to be able to just kind of touch upon that, but more importantly, I really want to talk about the motivations of why you should angel invest. And I want to be able to kind of cover as to what, how, why, some of the concepts for building a good successful portfolio. How do you find these investment opportunities, right? I think that's a question you'll always get. How do you get access to the best deals? How do you know when to invest? What is the legal know-how? What is the financial know-how? Are you investing in the founder or in the company or both? What are the risks and returns, and what kind of exit opportunities are there for angels once you do invest, right? So what is angel investing, right? Of course, when we took the poll, I know there are fair few people, it's a mix where we know that some of you are new and some of you have some experience, but on the whole, angel investors come in at the early stages of a startup, right? Usually it's kind of the first round of money the founder raises from outside of his own kind of, wallet. You would have heard of the term family and friends, but within that same round is kind of angel investors, right? And so that's why it's called angel investors, because you're an angel for the company. But also, why are you becoming an angel investor, right? I think it's a great way to connect with the ecosystem, and also at the same time, provide capital, right? Now, of course, angel investing is also very early stage. So it is extremely risky as well, right? And this is just kind of key level topics, but as I kind of go through the workshop today, we'll also discuss about how much of your portfolio should you expose to, angel investments, right? But just basically, it is a way for you as an angel investor to access deal flow, invest in startups, and basically get equity or be on the cap table of these companies, right? And because it's something that is very risky, it is something that is also patient capital. It is something that, typically you would do as something that out of your savings and excess funds, that you would look to invest in venture capital. Of course, the huge attraction to venture capital is, what you see out there in terms of some of the great companies that do succeed, and the high rate of returns, right? That's what kind of really attracts people. And of course, I think it's the epicenter of innovation and what's happening and exciting, right? So I think that's why people want to be part of this. But there are many motivations and factors to become an angel investor, and I want to kind of go through that. So of course, I think, as I mentioned, when I started my kind of journey of angel investing, of course, I mean, it just so happened that I come from the industry and I've been in private equity and venture capital. But more importantly, I think as an individual, I've always loved to learn and share and really be around some amazing people where I can really grow kind of my expertise or connect or build a network, right? So what I love most about angel investing is that I think you can become part of a global community and be part of this really amazing dynamic ecosystem, right? And what I also like is the fact that it can be a very engaged way. It can be a very engaged interaction. And the fact that you all have certain skill sets, focus sectors, expertise maybe, that you can leverage and really share with these startups when you engage with them, right? Which could be networking skills, finance skills, your industry experience, whatever it may be. But it can be a lot of value add because, of course, you can be as passive as you want. But I think for me personally, I think generally the most exciting thing is of how engaged you can be, right? A lot of times angel investing is also kind of your first step into entering this world of finance, entering and discovering maybe, your future career in VC, private equity, portfolio management, etc. Right? And it's a serious career that you can take up, right? As I mentioned, it's a lot of engagement. It's a lot of meeting kind of the best minds in the community and the room. So there's a lot of knowledge sharing and there's a lot of knowledge that can be given back, right? Which is very, very interesting and exciting, I think, both from an angel investing perspective and from a startup's perspective, right? What I also like talking about the fact is that, again, you can be as passive as you want, but if you are engaged with this startup, right, you can play multiple roles as well. As long as, of course, it adds value to you and to the startup as well. But one thing that we're really passionate about as well is that creating more diversity focused, kind of board members as well. So having more women on boards, more advisors, but basically you can become an advisor or you could even join the board of this company, right? As you engage with these startups. A lot of times, a lot of you could possibly be, in corporate roles where, you are working on live projects or client solutions. And there's no better innovation than startup innovation, right? So there could be startups that you could actually take back to your, full-time job, corporate job, maybe create, certain strategic partnerships, innovation partnerships, but basically take that back to what you do as well, right? And of course, one of the biggest things that it is, in the end, you are investing capital, you are looking for those outsized returns, right? And of course, venture capital does give you that opportunity to kind of really tap into that. really outsized interesting returns. Of course, as I mentioned, it's very patient capital, but you do have the opportunity to really gain and realize that. So now, what companies do angels invest in, and at what stage? You must be figuring out or want to know, what should I invest in? One is of course, you've taken the decision, you're motivated to now be an angel investor. You are okay with parting some of your money to invest and be patient about it. But what do you want to invest in? Typically, as I mentioned, angel investing is risky, but you want to invest in business models or founders or partners that you are sure, or at least, think that, yes, this company, this idea, this founder will outweigh all the risks and deliver 10 times more, right? I'm not saying that every company has to be a unicorn, but the idea and the market that they're going after needs to be that big for it to make sense to make returns from money that they have raised and taken from you, right? But what are the things that you probably want to look at? You're going to look at, is this a new growing market, right? A lot of times you'll see that people want to invest in market makers and market leaders, right? What is their unique advantage? How is this idea different? See, in the end, you want to invest in something not because, oh, this looks nice or this is cool. Of course, yes. But most importantly, it needs to be something that is really solving something, right? It's solving this problem for a lot of people. It needs to be a unique but scalable solution or product. And it needs to be disruptive, right? And I think in today's world, and especially even more since COVID hit us all, I think technology is a huge core for the business and a huge enabler, right? So you want to look at what kind of technology are they using? How are they kind of leveraging tech to really scale up, right? Are they building something for the local market, or something that can possibly, kind of grow across, globally, et cetera, right? And of course, we'll kind of talk more about that. But yeah, I think you need to kind of see at what stage and why you want to invest. So as I mentioned, of course, you would have heard the term pre-seed, right? But I think so nowadays what's happening is a lot of investors, institutional investors, are coming in before the seed round, which is called a pre-seed, which would have technically been an angel or family and friends round, right? But now an angel / pre-seed round is pretty much the same. And what's happening is you're getting institutions, meaning funds, also investing in that, right? And typically, of course, it all depends on valuations and trends and what industry you're looking at. But those kind of valuations and kind of the amounts raised can be anywhere from 0 to $1 million, et cetera, right? And of course, you have seeds, and then you have the growth stage and late stage, et cetera. But usually angels come in the early rounds, which we call an angel, family and friends, or pre-seed round. Fine. So here, maybe we can discuss more about how much should you invest, how many investments to make, do I need to diversify my portfolio? So as I mentioned, usually as a typical investor, and this is just generally, trends in the market or people, how they kind of create their portfolio. So you would have heard the term maybe portfolio strategy, right? But basically, generally, people look at investing in the public markets, or they look at investing in certain, mutual funds, bonds, real estate, commodities, et cetera, hedge funds, private equity, and venture capital, right? As I mentioned, venture capital is illiquid. So usually a lot of companies you can look to be holding, it all depends, but it could be anywhere from 3 to 10 years or even more, right? And there's reasons for why you should exit. And there's also reasons for why you would probably want to stay on, right? Even if because it's doing really well. And of course, it's going to make a huge difference if you kind of stay on. But usually you want your venture capital investments to represent maybe 5 to 10% of your asset allocation. And this is just something that I suggest as maybe first-time investors, etc. And of course, there are people who have their entire portfolios in venture as well. But usually, I think 10% is good to kind of start off with, and then of course you can see how it goes from there, right? How many investments should you make? This is all, of course, again, a function of how much you want to invest, what is your kind of allocation in terms of money that you've set aside for this, and how much you really want to be okay to part with. But one thing that I like to say is that if you're starting your angel investing journey and say you've decided, okay, hey, I want to make like 5 investments this year, make those 5 investments. And I think in the initial years, make the say, choose an amount, say there's also this myth that you have to like have millions of dollars to angel invest or thousands of dollars. You can even start your angel investing journey, with $2,500 or $5,000 or even less. Of course, that's different in terms of syndicates and crowdfunding. So I'll talk about that as well. But there's a ticket size and appetite for every kind of investor, right? But whatever you do, try to make, say, 5 investments per year, 5 investments, and maybe have a portfolio of 10 in the first two years, and kind of put in the same amount. So you know kind of how you're building that portfolio out, right? Also, one thing that I want to say is, and this is something which will come again to later, but if possible, you should try to follow on in the next round when you're investing in a company. So of course, you've come in at the pre-seed or angel stage, but it's really good to have the opportunity to kind of double up and follow on in the next round if the company continues to raise money. So I would always suggest, as an angel investor, if you've taken, and if you have the ability to, I'm saying if you don't necessarily want to part with more money, you don't have to, but if you have the ability, if the company is raising money, do invest in the next round as well, right? It gives you a lot of kind of leverage in terms of keeping your stake or having access to more number of shares and being on the equity table for longer. I think it's also important to diversify your portfolio. And of course, you can diversify in different ways. But for example, I wouldn't suggest that you come in and you say, hey, I'll make 5-10 investments and they're going to all be in healthcare, or they're going to all be in fintech, or they're going to all be in, say, one kind of focus area. So I think it's good to say that, hey, maybe I'll do a portfolio and, looking at, so depending on how engaged or, knowledgeable you are in terms of what's happening in the trends, or based on maybe, your day job or your areas of interest, you'll have certain maybe sectors that you like, and you're also been reading about them and they're, kind of trending right now, or they're growing right now, or they're very innovative sectors. But pick sectors that you like, and look to invest in a few of them: healthcare, consumer, Web 3.0. But as I mentioned, for example, if you are, say, a particular expert, and you think that, hey, I am in fintech, I can add value, and there's an interest in fintech, cybersecurity, blockchain, NFTs. So you can look to invest in that as well. It's also good to invest in different kind of entrepreneurs as well. So you want to be able to diversify your portfolio by entrepreneur, by certain kind of, different experiences that they have. So try to kind of just diversify your portfolio. And again, I always say this, but you can be as passive as you want. But I think the very interesting part of your journey will be if you can invest in companies that you personally have some experience in terms of the sector areas, or can really bring strategic connections, or of course it's something that really interests you and you've been reading about it, and it's a personal interest, and it's something that you want to be able to learn about. Always find something that's very interesting for you either way, and where you can engage. That journey of investing will be more fruitful and enjoyable, basically. So this is just, a representation of kind of what we've seen in the market of, how companies have, exited and what's the distribution and the multiple. But basically, angel investing, or I think when you're creating a portfolio, it kind of follows kind of your portfolio strategy, where, how we say that, say if you've invested in the 10 to 15, 20 companies, you're going to have those one or two home runs that's going to return everything that you've invested in the past, a few years. You'll have, a bunch of, a few, 5, 6 companies, 7 companies that will do well, average. And then of course you'll have your 2, 3 companies or 4 companies that will actually fail, right? And so this kind of graph is also kind of talking about that, about how less than one of 20 companies have home runs. Yeah, and I mean, this is exactly what I was kind of talking about, was that basically when you're looking and say you invest in 10 companies, it'll be that one company in your portfolio which is going to be really amazing, and just return everything that you've invested in and even more. You'll have half the portfolio average, great, done well. And to be honest, a lot of it will also fail, right? So it's a high fail, high reward scenario in venture investing, right? And of course, a lot of it is, we'll go into more detail, but it's very key that you do diligence, you think about what you're investing in, and of course, who's investing in it and how that diligence has taken place. What's the leadership? What are the founders like? How relevant their backgrounds are? Because of course, the better these things are looked at and the more boxes are ticked, you're going to achieve the likelihood of this company scaling and doing well, right? So, you've decided to invest, you have the motivation, you figured out, hey, okay, I want to invest in, say, 5 companies this year. It could be anything that you think that it's $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or even more, 25,000 per company, but you kind of figured that number out for yourself. Now, the next question is, how do I and you found a startup, say, right? How do you evaluate this startup? And maybe you would have heard the term due diligence, right? And you're figuring out how to do this. So let's see what we want to kind of look at when we're doing due diligence and when we're looking at a startup. One is, of course, when we're looking at very early stage companies, a lot of the bet is on the founder and the founding team, right? Because of course, the idea has to be unique and scalable and have all the boxes ticked that we have over here. But in the end, it's that founder who's going to implement the idea and take it forward, right? So it's very important to see what is the relevant experience and domain expertise of this founding team. Business relevance, right? As I mentioned, what is the solution? What is the product this team is creating? What is the real business that can come out of this? How big is the addressable market, right? How unique is this problem? What's the market size? How scalable is this? At what stage is this business? Is it idea? Do they have a pilot? Are they pre-revenue, post-revenue? What is the maturity of the business, right? And what is the business model? Like, when are they going to basically, what is the, are they building a community first? Are they transacting first? What is the business model? And of course, it's really important to also see who else is building this out there? What is the competitive advantage? What is the landscape like? And most importantly, what is the exit potential? Of course, you'll meet so many founders who have come up with this great idea, and I'm sure building something really amazing. But a lot of times they'll have answers to all these questions except the last one. What is the exit potential? And they're like, oh no, we haven't thought about that. But in the end, they forget. And we also need to realize that at the end, you have put in money for that money to at some point be realized. And for that, the company has to have an exit event, right? Whether it be that, say they're building a healthcare device they want to sell to Apple, or, they're building a SaaS product that they want to sell to one of the big SaaS companies, right? Or, at some point, whatever. But you need to know that they have that vision of why they're building and for what, and that there is an exit in sight, whether it be that they want to go. I mean, now in today's world, you would have heard of the SPACs and companies going public and IPO. So of course, there's so many exit events available for companies, but they need to have that vision and that long-term vision, and that knowing that they need to be able to kind of realize these gains for investors as well, and for themselves and for all their stakeholders. So what do we do when we're looking at the whole kind of angel investment process, right? Of course, one is deal sourcing, finding these deals, as I said, screening. You're going to meet the company, they're going to pitch to you, and of course, you're going to do diligence on what I just kind of discussed. But and then you're going to kind of give something called a term sheet. You're going to look at the paperwork, this documentation, bring the kind of round together. And of course, and that's when it kind of the whole process closes. But and I'll kind of very on a general way kind of take you through this, and I would love to do a more detailed session, because just 1 hour is not enough to go through kind of the legalities and documents and transactions part of it. But a lot of it is basically talking, diligence, negotiation, term sheet, and closure and documents. Now, I know we've gone through the process of why to invest, kind of the diligence questions, the process, etc. But, where do you find these deals, right? How do you know where to kind of go out? So these are some of the best kind of places to find deals. Of course, when I started my journey, as I mentioned, when I was giving my introduction, I joined a bunch of angel networks. In today's world, there are so many of them. And I think with the rise of kind of platforms and digital, you have access to so many platforms, whether it be crowdfunding or syndicates or, your alumni groups, etc. But there are a lot of ways of you to join an angel network. And, you would have seen all these syndicates on AngelList as well, right? And they all have a certain thesis or a strategy or team structure and what kind of deals they bring to the table, right? But what I like about angel networks, for example, is the fact that it's a group of people who have the motivation to angel invest. They've come with the kind of motivation saying, hey, I want to kind of invest and interact and find deals. And it's a very structured group where there's, of course, a team running the network, right? They're doing the kind of diligence and kind of talking to startups and attracting that talent to them. And of course, using their network to engage these knowledgeable experts. But I think it's a great way of starting off. When you go to conferences or, and when you network with people and when you meet people, that's when you find like these groups and people that have access to these deals. See, in today's world, things have changed a lot. Money is available anywhere and everywhere, but there are so many startups and there are so many founders as well. I mean, there are founders who have exited multiple times and they've already started their new journey. There's so many places that you need to be present in at some level to get access to these deals. So it's very difficult as a new investor to suddenly show up and think that, okay, I'm going to get the best deal. That's not possible. But the way to kind of make that possible is kind of connect with people who are, say, leading syndicates on AngelList or who are running angel networks. And you can pick and choose, on, as I said, on what you think are your interest areas, right? Like, for example, there are syndicates in AngelList based on, healthcare or consumer, or basically it's about the X team of Airbnb or Lyft, etc. Right? So I think there's a lot of focus groups and investor groups. And of course, a lot of you might be alumni of some of the kind of business schools or colleges, etc. out there, which have their groups as well. So that's a great way of joining them as well and just figuring out what's happening. I think the initial years of angel investing is connecting and networking, because that's the only way you'll get access to these deals. And then once you start investing and then you have a certain kind of flavor or method to the way you do invest, then even founders will know that, okay, this is a person who's an angel investor. They invest in these kind of companies. They add a lot of value as well because they come with certain expertise. I'd love to raise money from them. Of course, and you should use the power of LinkedIn, right? This is something that I also discovered, honestly, during COVID. Even though I had a LinkedIn profile years ago, I was not very active on it. But it's a great way of stating what you're doing, stating your intention of, saying, hey, I want to become an angel investor, and finding other people who are already investors or investing and connecting with them and saying, hey, love to find some time on your calendar. Can we discuss? Can we connect? That's how I've met so many people as well. So I think it's a lot about networking and being able to find people who are leading deals, who are investing, investor groups that is getting some of the best talent out there, right? These universities and business schools all have their entrepreneurial programs, innovation programs. They invite and they have something called demo days, angel meets. So you can attend those, right? I know 500 startups and YC. I mean, they have everything online, by the way, as well. So I think a lot of things were more open now because you can just sign up and attend a masterclass or a workshop or a demo day or an angel meet online, right? And all of them have incubators, accelerators, now. And then, of course, as I said, now because funds are coming into the first and early rounds, you can even follow certain early stage funds and see what they're investing in. And now the whole scenario of even venture capital funds has changed. And it's something that I'm also doing at Stronger, is where, of course, we are investing in companies from pre-seed to early stage, anywhere. It depends on what stage. When we come in, 150K to 2 million. But because I want to invite individuals and new angels to invest, I've also given an option to directly allocate companies to companies and invest in companies directly, right? So you'll see a lot of these top funds as well on AngelList where they'll have a syndicate where they'll open up an allocation, which if you had gone directly, it wouldn't be available to you. But funds get that allocation, even in some late stage rounds, by the way. But they open up direct allocation to these companies as well, right? So you get an idea of what's happening there. And see, what happens at all these places is that at some level, the diligence and a lot of the things that we discussed in terms of screening, evaluation, negotiation, term sheet, your legality is taken care of by the networks or the syndicate or the fund, right? So you can be at some level assured that at least that homework has been done. Because I think as if you just go fresh and if you say you've met someone who say, hey, I'll invest, you need to see who else is investing, or at least if you're investing by yourself or with some group of small people, like relevant people, who's doing the paperwork, who's going to take care of the legalities, right? So that diligence is very, very key, by the way. So it's very easy to get excited and meet founders who say, oh, I have this idea, this much billion, this thing, but you need to be really, really particular about the paperwork and the diligence part of it. And I guess as a new angel investor, you want to be able to kind of initially, to be honest, follow someone, tag along with someone, and rely on their expertise before you kind of take the plunge yourself, right? And you can meet people at meetups and co-working spaces, etc., right? So there's a lot of places to find deals, and there's a lot of reasons to look at deals from different groups and focus groups, depending on what your interests are. So I kind of touched upon this when I, did the first slide about the motivations, but, there are a lot of, and you must be thinking, of course, other than investing, what can I do for this startup, right? What role can I play? But there are a lot of roles that you can play. Also, yeah, I mean, it's not that every investment that you do, you have to play this role, by the way. Also, it's not the fact, it's also that the startup should realize that you add value and that you're going to play this role. But these are the roles that you could assume and can explore. One is, of course, you are a financial investor. As I said, you have, invested in this company and you believe in their success. So you've given money and that's about it. But based on your expertise and your engagement level and availability and value add, mutual value add, which the founder sees as well, you could possibly be a mentor, an advisor, These companies will scale up. You could be on their board, right? Which means a lot, right? So, and I think that's a huge value add to you and a huge opportunity to kind of be engaged and kind of keep working. You know, a lot of times the things that I say is also in relation to women, because that's of course diversity is kind of the key areas that I look at. But I'm very passionate about just seeing how, A, of course, how women can be entrepreneurs, B, how women can be investors, but how women can continue to kind of progress in the working environment and at the workplace. And I know a lot of times women have taken breaks because of different reasons, but this is also a great way for you to kind of get back and connect with the ecosystem and kind of work again as well, right? You could be someone who maybe led, I don't know, 10, 15 years of amazing corporate life, took a break for 2, 3 years. You are thinking about how to kind of go back into the work or what kind of direction to go, but you could also basically become a mentor, an expert, or an advisor to a startup, right? And then take it from there. You could help them with certain key functions, right? Based on if you're, you know, you're a tech product manager, you're a CMO, strategy, HR. A lot of times, early stage startups, they need a lot of help in hiring the right talent, retaining their talent. You as a senior leader or someone from the corporate world, or with your connections or whatever your day job is, you could help them kind of recruit senior management as well, right? And you could be that part-time CTO, CMO, CSO for them as well, right? Maybe you're someone from the venture capital or private equity world. You could help them with fundraising, right? This could be a great way for you to get access to deal flow for your fund. So help them with that strategic advice. You could make connections and help them get their initial customers, right? And help them with their risk and basically support them in, you know, venture development and exit. What's the time commitment? It all depends on you. What is your motivation and what is the kind of time that you have to give to these startups, right? But depending on where, how you can go about that, and, you know, really find ways to give time to the ecosystem, and or you can be fully involved. I know people who have, you know, of course, their day jobs, they invest, but they also maybe they said, okay, I've picked 2 companies, even though I could have invested in 5. I've picked 2 that I really like, and I want to spend time with them and give them, you know, say this many hours a month or this many hours a quarter, right? But it's all depending on how you want to be involved and commit time. Of course, as someone who leads deals, who runs a fund, we of course spend time in terms of, you know, weekly, monthly, quarterly management meets, financial meets, etc. And you can, as an angel investor, there will be someone who's probably leading this in a syndicate or in a fund, and they can kind of take that role away from you and I mean lead that for you as well. Okay, fine. I know we also have only 10 minutes left. I can see Naimisha is there. And I don't know, maybe it was a lot as well today. So I think I hope that whatever I kind of shared today just gave you a primer or introduction to angel investing. As I mentioned, very happy to do another session at some point where we can go more deeper on portfolio construction. Happy to share examples of in companies where I invested, what happened, learnings. There's a lot of failure as well, right? There's a lot of learnings as well. Share that, go more into the kind of legal documentation, term sheets, negotiation, and kind of just touch upon that as well. But I'll kind of leave it to Naimisha to kind of open the room for any questions or yeah, take it away.
Ankita, I think this was phenomenal. We definitely need to do a fireside chat with just all the questions that's come in and everybody. I don't know if you've been looking at the comments, but everyone loves how detailed this webinar, this workshop, this masterclass really was. We have about 10 minutes, and either we can just keep going with what you have prepared and let's complete that, and then we can have a part two with for just the questions. I think we should do that. What do you think?
No, yeah. I mean, to be honest, that I had today until here, and the next two
Okay,
slides were just kind of talking about what we could do in terms of the
got it.
next investment process, and just looking at, I was going to give an example of what investor rights look like, etc., and how much, holding. But I think maybe we can do that as a second kind of
Let's do that.
part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't realize there were so many questions when I was talking. So I'm happy to kind of just pick a few and, just talk about it. So if you can maybe help me with that.
Yeah, I can help you with that. I want to start off by asking you one question that I had prepared. What are some
Yeah.
most common mistakes angel investors make in their first year?
Yeah, no. So I think I maybe touched upon it while I was talking, but a lot of times, I'll be honest, a lot of times you get very excited, and I'll be honest, you won't know what to invest in, right? You'll just get, and because I used to do that. I used to like, oh my God, this founder is so amazing. I love her energy. I love what she's doing, and blah, blah, blah. So a lot of times you get very carried away by what the founder is saying and building. And of course, they could be really amazing founders, but you really haven't done the diligence of what the product or solution or service they're actually pitching, right? So I think as an angel investor, you sometimes might forget to do your homework and get carried away with what the founder is saying. And to be honest, you'll always meet founders saying that, oh, we are building this, only we are building it. In today's world, it is not possible. There are going to be a lot of people building the same thing, right? There's a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of, me too's, etc. So you need to do your homework. You need to do background checks as well. A lot of times, founders would have met other angels or someone that it's kind of good to know what their feedback is, right? Maybe they used to work at Google or wherever it may be, maybe find out about them. So I think you should do your background checks about the founder, look deeply into the competition, see who's investing in this round, and kind of do that kind of level of, kind of diligence.
For sure. I mean, through Products by Women, I've met some really, really incredible women in the early stage, and I've made about 4 angel investments myself, one of which I've also co-founded. And I completely 100% agree. And I think in my initial days, I would get really excited and be like, she's my friend, I love her, and I want to make this investment. And most of it went really well. Out of the 4 investments I made, one of them actually went nowhere. And that happens. And I think it's really important for somebody to go through the motions of the checklist and due diligence. So that's really great advice. I guess my other question is from a entrepreneurial viewpoint as such. What are some questions entrepreneurs should ask angel investors, when they are going through fundraising? Like, what is your viewpoint there?
Yeah, more importantly, I think it's important for entrepreneurs to research their investors. I think it's very important that, as an entrepreneur, when you're looking to fundraise, to look at what kind of financing options are available for you, but what kind of investors would invest in, and reach out to relevant investors. You're not going to ask 10 times if you're building a D2C product or you're in the consumer or beauty space.
Yeah.
You're not going to send your pitch to a healthcare focused fund. But so many times as an entrepreneur, I see that I see entrepreneurs just send kind of mass mailing out to investors. That's not going to help you. And it's really important. So even if it's an investor who's from the relevant industry, right? I think if you take out the time to go to their LinkedIn, go to their website, everything is, all information is available online, right? Yeah. See where they've worked, what are their interests like, what are the investors, and make somehow a personal connection or a note when you reach out to these investors, right? And so that is important, because that then when you reach out to them, that this investor will at least read your email or will take an interest because it's a relevant area of expertise for them or relevant area of investment for them, right? And then, of course, when you do meet them, you need to ask them questions. Now, I mean, entrepreneurs are very smart. They're not just looking for capital, right? I mean, they're looking for smart, engaged investors. You need to ask them how they can really help you, right? You could be, again, a consumer-focused product who is right now building in the US, but you know that your product could do really well, maybe in the emerging markets as well. So maybe it's a global fund which can connect you, right?
Yeah.
Or you know that you want to be able to open distribution channels across the US. Maybe they've made similar investments and have amazing networks there, right? So you need to know as an entrepreneur how this investor basically can help you more than just money.
Yeah. And then my last question for today, and then we'll wrap up and do a part two, is any exciting initiatives in the pipeline that
Oh yeah,
you're
for us,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, as I think I mentioned it probably when I was talking in between, but basically, so I've launched Stronger Ventures, right, which is my kind of new fund which I launched last year. But as I mentioned, even though it's a $75 to $100 million fund, we've opened up the fund for new angel investors to come in, right? So I'm very excited by that because I'm very passionate about helping certain professionals or new investors invest, and have opened up the allocation to our fund through that. And also at Stronger, we have just recently, we're going to announce our partnership in a week or two, but we have partnered exclusively with WeWork Labs and WeWork on creating one of the largest female-founded accelerator programs, which, by the way, even Naimisha is kind of advising me and mentoring me, etc., as well, because she's run some great programs and she's built a great community at Products by Women, right? So I would love to invite people here, by the way, to reach out to either Naimisha or me to see, if you want to be a mentor in one of these programs. If you know any startups, female founded or female economy focused, that wants to be part of this program, get engaged. Do you want to invest? We're very happy to enable that, directly into these companies or whatever, however it may be. But there are a lot of opportunities to basically network and grow with us. And we're finding we want people to be engaged, whether it be as mentors, advisors, investors. Do you want to take up a masterclass? So we're going to actually reach out to a lot of you to kind of come up and volunteer.
I love that. You can see the chat blowing up, and you're so gracious for saying that. I've been, it's the other way around. Like, you've been so amazing and supportive, and the mentor I needed to scale what I'm doing, and in so many other ways. So thank you so much, Ankita. We'll definitely follow up for a part two event, and also share all the information for everyone here who's asking about mentorship opportunities, being a mentor, being a mentee. We'll bundle in all the information once the announcements have been made. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on Instagram. Reach out to Ankita on LinkedIn. Send her a connection request. She's amazing, and she'll be back for more. And with that, we'll close out this session for today. Thank you so much, Ankita. Any parting words or advice for anyone who's starting off their entrepreneurial journey? Any quote that you want to kind of share?
No, I mean, I think, really don't ever limit yourself, basically. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a successful leader, you can be an investor, right? So there are a lot of opportunities to engage and discover new things, be part of new initiatives. Please be open, network, communicate, be part of amazing communities, and reach out. I think most importantly, if you want to learn and be part of something, reach out to people that are giving this opportunity or are talking about it. You can do it, basically, right? And the reason I've been doing these sessions recently is that I really want to be able to help support people in their journeys of entrepreneurship, or building or being an investor or being part of a community, right? And I think Naimisha and me both are really passionate about that. So we're both here to support you in that. And of course, I think next time would actually, we want to do a part two, but I'd also love to do maybe a live mixer where we see everyone. By the way, we want all your videos on. We want all of you to talk and chat and network here as well. So would love to do that as well.
Absolutely, let's do it. I'll reach out to you for follow-up dates, and we'll take it from there. Well, thank you,
Great.
everyone, and we'll see you in part two. See you,
Thank you.
Ankita.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye.
loved it. Bye. Bye.
Bye.